Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending our workshop on the SBIR and STTR programs. This is really going to be kind of an introduction or overview into the programs. So what we're going to discuss today is what are some of the key facts you need to know about these programs? Why are they of great value for businesses that are creating an innovative product, something that currently has maybe an unmet need in the marketplace, something that really speaks towards a value that people just aren't seeing at the moment. And then we're going to talk about how do you move forward with these programs? What are some of the resources that are available to you to actually help you apply for these really great opportunities? So by the end of today's session, what we hope to establish is really that you have a familiarity with the SBIR and STTR programs. What is their goal? Why are these federal opportunities great? What do you need to know? What are some of the requirements? And what type of things do they look for? What are the hallmarks that they consider for things like innovation or commercialization? And then we're going to talk about the NM-FAST program. And when we get into that, I'll go into the full background of FAST, but just as an awareness factor as we start here, the NM-FAST program is created to actually help people move through these programs, help put together a complete and compelling proposal package. The things and tools, resources we've developed will help you actually go after these opportunities. But for the SBIR and STTR programs. So SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research. This is a program that has been created, and it got created about 25-ish years ago or so now. And it is really the best way for the federal government to inject research and development dollars into small businesses. These programs are founded on a hallmark that small businesses really do help grow not only the economic base for our country, but the innovation base. What are we doing to actually, progress science, let's call it? What are we doing to really have great impacts into areas like socially and economically disadvantaged populations? What are we doing to actually transition really great technologies out of research institutions that are just sitting on the shelves? And there's a sister program called the STTR, Small Business Technology Transfer Program. That one was created specifically for that kind of last bullet point there is, there's a lot of research that gets done at institutions like universities, our federal labs, our other federally funded research and development centers that just kind of push the bounds of what we know, what we understand, the things that we never thought were possible. But then nobody wants to make a product out of it because that's not what those organizations do. But the STTR program provides a pathway for that. So when we're talking SBIR and STTR, one of the kind of criterion for those and one of the hallmarks is they are at the heart of it, business development. And you have to be a small for-profit business to actually capture one of these opportunities. So that's why a big thing like the STTR, where a research institution works with a small business, at the end of the day, the small business is still the awardee. The small business is the one that's in control. They are establishing the direction. They're establishing where they want to go, how they want to take something, what they want to do to press forward and make this thing into a product. Because it has to, at the end of the day, be about creating a product, creating something that is going to drive revenues, create something that is an economic benefit for that business. Now, these are a US-based program. So they are for-profit businesses that are located in the United States, but then also the research that goes into it has to be performed within the US. Now, I know I said that these were about product development and people are going, well, research that doesn't fit product development, but it does. It's a different type of research than a lot of people are probably used to. When we talk research here, we're talking about applied research, not basic research. Basic research is just, hey, science students say this thing could happen. I think it can. Let me actually look at the underpinnings here. Let me look at the growth here. Let me look at what do I do? And applied research is kind of along those same lines, but it's with a goal. See, applied research is about not only am I doing this, not only am I actually, breaking the rules of the universe that binds us, but I'm doing it because it can be a really great product. It can be a really great, service. It can be a really great technology that people are going to buy. And when we talk about products, that's a big thing to keep in mind is that that's not just a physical thing. It's intangible things, it's services, it's models, it's processes, it's even things like licenses. So how are you going to make revenue off of this? How are you going to sell this? What is that opportunity that you can capture? Because these are opportunity capturing, opportunities by the federal government. And the business has to be small. So what the government decides as a small business, that varies a lot of times depending on what type of business it is, what they're doing, what their focus is. But for the SBA definition under these programs, a small business is just a business that employs less than 500 people. So you could have 499 people on your payroll. And according to the SBA, you are a small business and you can participate in these programs. Now, not only are the SBIR and STTR programs all about, kind of that innovation and commercialization, but they're a 3-phase program. And what that means is it's kind of that stop gate. So you get a phase 1, and then you get a phase 2, and then you go after phase 3. And it's really important to establish, though, that these phases have different focuses for that phase. See, the start for these programs is a phase 1. And under that phase 1, what you're trying to do is you're trying to establish that there's some feasibility here. You're trying to establish that this can work. You're trying to establish that there is some opportunity here. There's this critical problem that I really need to solve. I have this great idea and I know it can be something, but man, if I can't figure out this one problem, if I can't figure out this basic underpinning, I might as well stop and go be a greeter at Walmart because my business is just not going to succeed. And that's what phase 1 is about. You're taking that concept and you're starting to turn it into a reality. But before you turn it into reality, you have to know, is it even feasible? Is it potential? And phase 1 establishes that. What you're doing in phase 1 is you're just looking at the potential. You're saying, is this feasible? Can I move forward? Is there something here? Is there even a ground truth that I can grow from? Now, once you've gone over and through your phase 1, then you go into a phase 2. So phase 2 is more money and longer funding because now that you've established that, hey, this might actually work, well, your job then is to, prove it, really develop that. Almost like when you would go after something like a patent, when you have like a provisional, you go, well, I think this will work. And then before you actually get a patent, you have to prove it. You have to show that it works. You have to show the science that says this works every single time. And that's what that phase 2 does. You're taking that feasibility, you're taking that concept, and you're starting to get towards something like a prototype, something you can actually put your hands on, something that you can showcase to a potential customer and say, this is what we created. Does it match what you need? Does this match, your operation parameters? Whatever that discovery portion is, on the phase 2, you're really setting that up. You're trying to make something that is almost market ready. And market ready is a really big term there because when you're looking at that prototype development, that market readiness means I'm pretty much ready to stamp these out. If I had a tool line set up, if I had my distribution, if I had my logistics, I could, spin up and produce 1,000 of these a day, or whatever the production capabilities need to be. It's not just, oh, I thought this up and I tinkered around in my garage and it's really held together with, duct tape and baling wire, but I think it'll actually work. No, they want something that's almost ready to get into that marketplace, because that's what your phase 3 is about. Phase 3 is actually the commercialization. Phase 3 is selling it. Phase 3 is getting it into a customer's hands and getting revenue off of it. Now, phase 1 is funded. It's anywhere between roughly around 50,000 for some of the smaller DoD opportunities, up to about 260,000. And for that 6 to 12 months, because you're, again, just looking at the feasibility, you're establishing, can this work? And then the phase 2, you get anywhere from about 400K to a little bit over $1.5 million over 2 years to create that prototype, to create that thing, to create that I can actually give this to somebody, I can get them interested in buying this from me. Now, the phase 3 is not directly funded under SBIR, because that's kind of your point to really have them turn the keys over for that business development to you. Now you have to actually grow your business. You have to scale. You have to get out there into the marketplace. So for a lot of people, that's things like maybe it's a procurement contract from Department of Defense or NASA or any other government entity. Maybe it's a distribution agreement with somebody that is going to provide the marketplace and the storefront, physical or digital, for you. Or maybe it's actually going out there and getting things like venture capital or angel investment so that you can actually grow, you can do that scaling, you can get this into people's hands. But it's really important to be aware that, out of this 3-phase program, funding only comes into play for 2 phases. That 3rd phase is all you, because at that point, you have the idea, you've shown that it works, you have the prototype. Now you have to actually start selling it. And you don't want somebody looking over your shoulder dictating to you how you're going to have to sell it. So yes, it kind of, at the end of the day, sucks that phase 3 isn't funded, but you also really don't want it funded, because you don't want somebody driving how you're getting this into the marketplace. Now, across the SBIR and STTR programs, there's a lot of federal agencies that participate. And these federal agencies all have kind of their own mission. They all have their goal. They all have the things that they focus on. And for a lot of them, it's kind of in their name. But for SBIR, there are 12 agencies that participate. And it's all of the agencies that are listed on here. Now for STTR, because it is a little bit more focused on that, establishing that idea, looking at that, kind of ground truth there, it's a lot more towards that basic research. Only 5 of the agencies, which are the largest agencies, participate in that. But it's not really about thinking about the agencies when you look at whether you want to do an SBIR or STTR. It's about looking, what is their focus? What do they want to do? How do they want people to move forward? And it's important to keep those in mind as you're looking at that. Is this a program I should be aware of? Is this an opportunity that I should go with? Is this something I should focus my business around? Now, as I said, most agencies, their research focus, their mission, what they, derive for value is built into their name. So someone like National Science Foundation, well, it's science. They cover every single aspect of science, discovery, research, everything that just you sit down and you go, man, that would be really cool if I can make a product around. The only thing they don't do is clinical trials. If you're doing something that you have to actually test on people and say, hey, this thing works, this new drug, this new technique, this new whatever it is, NSF is going to be like, no, we don't touch that with a 10-foot pole. But otherwise, they fund pretty much anything. And if you look at some of the funded abstracts, which all of these agencies will actually list those because it is public funding, they have to list at least the abstract, just that, one pager. What do we provide money for? You'll see that NSF funds a whole lot of different things, but other agencies are a little more focused. So you have someone like USDA, who is Food and Agriculture. Now they go a little bit outside of that bounds because it also includes things like, forestry and rural development. But at the heart of it, it is about, food safety, food security, agriculture, new plant crops, new plant types, new things like fertilizers that are less wasteful to the environment and, harmful to the ecology of the planet. That's what USDA is really interested in because that's their background, that's their research focus, that's their mission as an agency. And even things like, Department of Defense. Yes, defense is in their name, but it's not about, like the old saying in football, the best offense is a good defense. So it's not just about those things that, blow up or those things that cause harm to others that we think of for, guns, missiles, tanks, things like that. It's also about protecting people. So, cybersecurity, healthcare, risk mitigation. Those are also vital missions for the Department of Defense because it's that internal defense. So when you're looking at your opportunities here, it's really good to keep in mind what these different agencies focus on, what are their goals, and am I creating something that is going to be interesting to that agency? Am I creating something that is going to be impactful for their mission? Because that's the kind of things that they want to fund. Now, it is important to note too that when you're thinking about the agencies, when you're thinking about who is going to be interested in this, you also have to realize that there's a lot of differences between those agencies. When we talk about the SBIR program, we always like to say there's not just one SBIR program. It's more like 12 SBIR programs because each of those participating agencies not only has their own, mission, their own focus, but things like the proposals that you have to put together. Well, their requirements are going to change by the agency. Things like the funding levels, your period of performance, how often that agency accepts proposals, how many times they, change those requirements, any of the registrations that come with it. These are going to vary at least slightly between agencies. And for some agencies, it's going to vary a whole lot. Thinking about something like just the proposals. When you look at the proposal landscape, someone like National Institute of Health, they have a proposal package requirement that is vastly different than anybody else. Or someone like Department of Defense, their proposals are very similar to, someone like NASA. But even between DoD and NASA, although they share a lot of the same areas of the proposal and a lot of the same sections, a lot of the same documentation, your focus is going to have to be different. Because remember, you have to speak towards that agency's mission, towards that agency's values, and towards that agency's goals before they go, this sounds interesting. This sounds like something we should fund. This sounds like something we should put, R&D dollars into, because this is something that can change our little slice of the world. Now, really quickly, we talk about SBIR and STTR, and there's a few key factors between these programs that are different just besides, the funding level and the agencies that participate in the programs. And one of the biggest ones is under an SBIR, the business can do everything themselves. You can have 100% of the work if you can do 100% of the technical work. You can have all of the budget for it. If you say, my business can do this, I have the resources, I have the people, I have the expertise and capability to make sure that this project goes off without a hitch. But if you have to, you can actually do things like subawards. So if you need to bring in a consultant, somebody that has, 30 years of experience with research in this area, and you go, I need you to come in for a day or two and just make sure I'm doing this right. Check my results. Make sure, I'm not introducing bias into, hey, I looked at this, I proved it was feasible. Let me actually verify that it's feasible. Or if you need some technical work done and you need to partner with, a university like NMSU, or you want to partner with a lab like LANL, or maybe you need some technical work done by another small business. They allow you to kind of outsource up to a third of the award and a third of the work. Now, under an STTR, though, it's a requirement that you're working with a research institution, essentially somebody that gets federal funding to do research. So that is things like universities, national labs, FFRDCs. And the reason behind that is, remember, the STTR program was envisioned as a way to move technology from the shelf that's just sitting there and gathering dust and creating a product out of it. And that original goal still lives on because you have to partner with a research institution. It doesn't mean anymore that you're taking their idea forward. It could still be your own idea, but there has to be that partnership. There has to be that agreement on, I need work. I need more technical work than I thought was, possible at this point. I need to work with somebody else. And that requirement for the split of the work also changes. So under an STTR, I always like to tell people the SBIR program deals in maximums. So it's a maximum of 33% that can go out to somebody else besides the small business. STTR deals in minimums. So it's a minimum of 40% to the business, a minimum of 30% to that research institution. Now math wizards are going, but that's only 70. Where does the other 30% come into play? And it goes to wherever it needs to. Maybe more funding needs to go to the small business. Maybe more funding needs to go to the research institution. Maybe you need to bring somebody else in, but it deals in minimums. So as long as you hit those minimum thresholds, you're eligible, you're in compliance. You can actually submit a proposal. Now, with both the SBIR and STTR programs, they sound like a really great thing, right? You can actually get federal funding to kind of establish your idea. But that's not the only benefits that come from these programs, because that investment by the government is pretty much the best way to get investment for your idea, because it's non-dilutive funding. And what that means is you don't have to give up any portion of your business. You don't have to give up any portion of your idea. It's not like that typical third-party investment like venture capital that you used to, like Shark Tank, where they go, oh, I'll give you $150,000 for 15% of your company. No, the government doesn't want part of your company. They don't want part of your idea. They don't want to take anything away from you that's going to impact your ability to grow. They just want to see solutions hit the marketplace. They want you to sell stuff. They want you to be successful. They want you to hire more people. They want you to pay more wages. Because at the end of the day, that investment by them pays off and you become big, you pay more in taxes, they get a larger tax base to, continue these programs, to help out, public investment, to do things like infrastructure that are going to help carry these awards and carry these programs through to the marketplace. So it allows you to get some investment into establishing your idea without having to start, carving up your company and carving up that potential product before it's even a reality. So these are the best way to get funding for your business to create that idea, to take it from that concept to an actual product. And it also, allows you to kind of map, I have this product. I think there's a value for it. I think there's a customer. Let me get out there and let me actually figure this out. Let me see what is really interesting here. Let me talk to people and see what drives their purchasing decisions. It allows you not to have to, spend a lot on R&D that could be put into business development stuff like customer discovery, like, market research, like, intellectual property protections. It frees up those dollars that you would normally spend in R&D, because R&D is very, very expensive. And free those up so that you can grow your business, you can be successful. And if you do need to go after things like venture capital, third-party investment, these give you a great kind of basis to work from. It's really about that due diligence. Because if you just have this concept, if you don't have something you can show people, if you don't have something that maybe is already being sold, if you pitch this to a venture capital, well, there's a lot of risk for them. They are going to, take on a lot of risk when they provide you with money, because they don't know if it's going to pay off for them. So those venture capital deals or third-party investment deals are going to skew mightily in their favor. You're kind of getting to get bent over the barrel a lot of times. Well, these programs are about that risk, though. They want those risky things, and they allow you to de-risk it when you go after those future investments. So it allows you to establish that this really isn't risky anymore. I can get a really great negotiating position when I have to, in the phase 3, go after VC or go after angel or look at getting business loans. Whatever it is that you need to do to continue on your funding, you're going to have a lot better position if you use these programs. But when we talk about the SBIR and STTR programs, there's a couple of things that are really kind of critical to establish when you're thinking about why this, why now, why me? And the big thing is, do you actually have a technical challenge that you're facing? Do you actually have this big, technical problem where you go, oh man, I got to figure this out. I got to put a lot of work into this. I don't know if this is going to work. It's going to take a lot of money to even, do some testing, do some validation, do some engineering. Whatever that thing is where you go, God, I got to research this. I got to actually put some labor behind figuring this out. Well, that's what these programs fund. So there needs to be that technical challenge. There needs to be that thing that's going to form that backbone for growing. There needs to be that thing where you go, oh man, if I could only figure this out, this could be wonderful. This could be great. This could be so impactful. If you have that technical challenge, then these programs are interested in funding it. If it's just a business challenge, if it's just a marketing challenge, if it's just like an IP protection challenge, well, then these programs aren't for you. That's not what these opportunities were created for. There's other ways to get investment for that are fairly risk-free. But if it is that technical challenge, if you go, I have to create this, but I don't even know where to start. I have this concept. How am I going to put this into reality? Well, that's what these programs are all about. Now, you've heard a lot about why businesses are interested in here, and you go, well, this seems really great, but why does the government even do this? Well, again, because it sets up a really great economic basis for them. The more you succeed, the larger they grow. And that's because businesses are a really critical part of that economic activity for the US. It's about half, that 44%. But even beyond that, like 90% of the businesses in the US are small. They have a workforce of like 80%, 86% of the people. So they want those businesses to succeed. They want those, they don't want businesses to shutter. They don't want to add to the unemployment. So anything they could do to create that stable job base, that stable workforce base, they want to invest into. And that's one of the great benefits of these programs. Because if you are able to establish yourself, if you are able to say, I have a product that nobody's selling, this is going to be huge, well, then you're kind of set. You have that good baseline to grow from. You have that stable foundation, and they want stable businesses. One other thing to keep in mind too about these programs is there's two opportunities, let's call it, under SBIR and STTR, and that's a grant or a contract. Some agencies operate on a grant basis, and for a grant basis, that just means, well, I'm trying my best. I think that this will work. There's something that can be created out of this, but I'm not really sure what that is. And some of them are contract based because they want solutions. They want to buy things from you. So with what you're creating, someone like, let's say National Science Foundation, they want things to get out there in the marketplace. They want us to push the envelope of scientific understanding and knowledge. They want to say these products are going to be great, but we're not going to buy them. We're not a buying organization. But somebody like Department of Defense is, because they have to solve critical problems that are affecting them right now. Or someone like NASA is, because they have a mission that they have to do. They have to buy goods. They have to buy services. They have to buy products that are going to help them with that mission. So that's really the big driver, the differences between a grant and a contract. A grant is open. They go, yeah, as long as it matches, what our research focus is, as long as it's something somebody will buy, we'll do investment into it. And a contract is a hard deliverable. They set a very specific problem. They set very specific parameters. You're going to work with them on that swap or size, weight, and power. What are their requirements that this thing needs to look like? And then at the end of the time period, once you have that product, once you start producing it, well, they're going to buy it from you because, again, that's what they want to do. They want to use these programs to kind of develop their own procurement cycles. And along with that, there are some other restrictions that come into place. Because a grant is very flexible and because it's just, hey, is this going to be interesting to our research base? It's very open. You pick what your statement of work is going to be. You pick what your deliverable is going to be. You pick how you're going to move forward. And under a contract, that's pretty rigid. They're going to say, I need this for this reason. I need this to operate like this. Here's where I want you to be in 3 months. Here's where I want you to be in 9 months. Here's where I want you to be in 2 years. Whatever those requirements are, they're going to kind of define that scope of work and the requirements that match it. So be aware of that when you're thinking about these programs is this agency right for me? Do I want to sell a product to this agency? Do I want to be a lot more flexible with where I take this in the future? And that can drive that decision on, is this agency going to be better because it's a granting agency? Is this agency going to be better because it's a contracting agency? Contracting agencies are great for that because it gives you your first customer, that agency. The government wants to buy it, but you're still going to have to commercialize it outside of those government bounds. You have to say that, yeah, I know I can sell, 10,000 of these to you in a year, but I need to sell 1 million of them to actually be successful. So here's my customer outside of the government. Here's my customer in the open marketplace. That's what they want you to really establish there. Now, as I mentioned, these programs have two backbones, besides the technical challenge, and that is innovation and commercialization. And there's always a lot of confusion that comes up with innovation. When people think innovation, they think, this thing fell out of Star Trek. I would see this in a sci-fi novel or a sci-fi movie that comes out. This just completely blows my mind. And yeah, that's innovation. But innovation doesn't have to be high tech. It can be, low tech things. A great example of this is DoD provided funding under SBIR to create comic books for PTSD patients. Now, comic books are not high tech. Don't get me wrong, I love comics. I'm a big dork, but they're been around for thousands of years. But it was the application of those comics. It was the way that it showed real life scenarios, how people would interact now that they're not, in the theater of war, when they're trying to have to integrate back into, quote unquote, normal society. So that was innovative because it was taking an established thing and doing something different with it, getting a better result, doing it for less resources, having larger impacts. That's what innovation really is can I do this for, lessened or greater impacts for people, lessened impacts on the business or the environment or whatever it is that you're impacting, that you're hoping to have a positive reinforcement on. Or it's, there's a lot of resource waste here. There's a lot of time and money and effort that goes into this, but I can shorten that for people. I can make it impactful for their business. So as long as there is some positive, as long as there's some potential, and as long as it's different, because at the end of the day, that's what innovation is. It's different, it's unique, it's a new way to do something. That's innovation. And, commercialization is just, can I sell this? What is the merit behind this? Is there a marketplace for this? Is there a customer for this? Is there a value proposition that I can actually deliver? Will someone buy this? That is just the commercial merit. That is what they're looking for. What is that establishment? Why do you think there's a customer? Why do you think people are going to buy this? What does that market look like? Is it a growing market? These are the two hallmarks that really drive these programs, and the things that no matter the agency, you're going to write a proposal package. And in the proposal package, you're going to talk about a lot of different things. You're going to talk about why this is different. You're going to talk about who can I sell this to. You're going to talk about what you're actually going to do with the funding. But if your proposal isn't tailored towards innovation and commercialization, it's not going to be successful, because those are the two things that drive this program. Is it innovative, and is there a customer for it? If there's not, then find one. Find some different way to talk about it. Because if you don't have those two things, you're probably not going to be successful with the proposal, because those are the two things you have to have in order to participate in these opportunities. But diving a little bit more into innovation. So what I always like to, tell people is innovation isn't just everything cut from the same cloth. Different agencies might have a different focus on innovation. For someone like NSF, they often swap in disruptive there for innovation. So how are you disrupting the marketplace? How are you disrupting the way that we address this problem right now? Or transformative or revolutionary or whatever your big buzzword is. But when you think innovation, don't miss the forest for the trees. And what I mean by that is, just because you think you know what that agency's focus is, just because you think you know what that agency is going to drive towards, just because you think that it's innovative for a certain reason, doesn't mean that there's not some way you got there that is innovative itself. Now, think about product development. Yeah, you're creating this thing, this widget, which at the end you're going to sell to people. But how did you create that? Did you actually have to, take and reconfigure an assembly line into a vastly different way that nobody else has done before to actually create this thing? Well, that's innovation. There might actually be funding for that. Think of Henry Ford and the assembly line. Before that, they, were doing them one by hand. Now you have an assembly line where you can turn out products and, churn out manufacturing on a level that people would have never dreamed of 200 years ago during the Industrial Revolution. Well, that's innovation. Maybe you had to collect a lot of data and actually, transform it into this information packet where you're deriving these really great value-added decisions from. Well, that could be innovation in and of itself. And that might be something that other agencies are interested in. So just because you're not, like for DoD, working on missiles or bullets or, armor plating, remember, that's not all that they fund. There's a lot of different areas. So things like improve supply chain and logistics. Well, they're interested in that. They got to move a lot of people and a lot of things into, areas 3,000 miles away. Well, how do they get there? How do they make sure it gets there? What's the provenance on that? How do they track that? How do they look at that chain? That could be something they're interested in funding. Or for NASA, yes, it's rockets and, satellites and, plating on space shuttles. But it's also, they got astronauts to protect. They got missions to Mars that are going to take 3 years. How do you keep those people healthy when they're literally millions of miles away from a healthcare provider? Well, they're interested in areas like that. So just because they may have a certain focus, you may have this preconceived notion about what that agency is interested in, dig down into it. All these agencies are going to talk about somewhere what they're interested in, what they actually focus on, the kinds of things. And you can, again, look up things like those funded abstracts. Great example is NSF. They have a current phase 2 for an IoT-enabled shower head because of things like water wastage at, hotels and resorts and, utility companies. They want to be able to monitor that. They want to be able to shut that off if the thing's been running for 2 hours. And they want to do that remotely. So NSF said, yeah, that's actually unique. Nobody else is trying this. I could see that there's a product for it. Let me provide funding. You may not think it's scientific, but it includes a lot of weird moving parts. So they were interested in that. Don't come into these programs going, well, that agency is not going to be interested in this, because there's areas like big data or data transmission or logistics that a lot of agencies are interested in. So don't miss the forest for the trees. Capture and make use of every opportunity that is out there. Because there's a lot of companies that got a really great start off of these programs. You see some big ones here like Qualcomm or, 23andMe, those things that everybody now goes, oh yeah, I know that company. And there are some surprises on here for how some of these companies got started. I always like to kind of give this example when people think of innovation and the differences between agencies and kind of keeping an open mind. And the one is iRobot. So everybody knows iRobot. It's the Roomba people. It's the people that made this little robotic vacuum cleaner. And iRobot actually got their start with DoD funding. They got their start with SBIRs through the Department of Defense. And you're going, well, why do they need robotic vacuum cleaners? Well, they didn't. But they needed something very important to their mission. They needed DoD robots. So iRobot won awards for creating these explosive ordnance disposal robots for the Department of Defense. They needed something that could remotely be moved. They needed something that would know the terrain. They needed something that could track and path, and they needed something that could interact with objects when no human was around. Sounds really familiar, right? Because they took that basic technology and they created the robotic vacuum cleaner out of it. So that's why it's so important not to come into these with that preconceived notion about this agency is not interested because, well, I'm not working on this, so I'm not going to get funding because. No, there's a lot of things that might have gotten their start through these programs in unique ways that nobody really either understands or knows about. And commercialization is also kind of really key and really important because the government doesn't dictate how you commercialize it. It just has to be something that can be sold. And again, it doesn't have to be a physical good. It could maybe be a service. It can maybe be a process. Maybe this is something you're licensing to people. Maybe it's just, hey, nobody really knows how this can actually be created, but I figured out a way to do it. Somebody's going to pay for this. As long as you can drive revenues from it, well, that's commercialization, because you're commercializing some part of that. You're creating positive revenue flow for your company through some means that were, driven by whatever that quote unquote product is. That's what you have to point towards when you think of commercialization. But it has to be verifiable. There has to actually be some good ground truth there. There has to be, okay, well, there are solutions like this in the marketplace. You just can't field of dreams and go, well, if I build this, people are going to buy it. Why? Why would they buy it? What's the value behind it? What is it going to do for them? Because people don't buy things just because it's cool. Yes, there is a small portion of the population. It's like 2.3% for people in the value and purchasing decision process that will buy it just because it's cool. No, everybody else, there has to be something that they're going to get. There has to be some value for them. So it's figuring out, what is that value? Why are people going to buy this? Things like, well, who's going to be the customer? Who's actually going to be something like my competition? Because competition is something that exists for everything. I hear the cries now, well, but there's nobody out there that's created this product. There's nobody in the marketplace. There is no competition for me. And that's critically wrong. There's always competition. Don't care. Great example, Jurassic Park. You would think, well, there's no competition for Jurassic Park. It was a theme park full of dinosaurs. Yeah, but what's the value it's providing as a theme park? Disney's a theme park. Are people going to pay 10 times as much to go, pet a Stegosaurus? Maybe, but maybe not. People have a certain budget for entertainment. Jurassic Park was just entertainment. Is it worth it going to Jurassic Park more than to buy, 100 Xbox games? Whatever that value is, whatever that decision is, that's competition. Or at the end of the day, it could just be the status quo. Are people fine with losing, 10% of the must when they create wine? Is there something that you could do better? Is it something that is just an established practice? Well, getting people to change their mind about, I need to purchase this because this is a value I don't currently get. This is a value I want to get. Well, that's what commercialization and competition is about. And, for like a phase one, of course, you're just starting out. You don't really have these things set in stone for this is why it's innovative, or this is the exact commercial market, or this is the exact market data. But you have to have a really good idea. This can't just be an entire pipe dream. There has to be some foundation. There has to be some verifiable facts. There has to be something you can point towards and say, yeah, science says this will work because this underlying theory says that this complementary thing works. Well, now you change it. Now you shift that understanding of how we apply science in the real world. Or, commercialization. Yeah, you're creating a product that nobody's ever seen before. But at the heart of it, what type of product is it? Is it, a holographic cell phone? Well, yeah, you don't know how many holographic cell phone people buy because there's no holographic cell phones. But how many people buy cell phones? How many people buy holographic displays? What's that just crossover there? What is that logical conclusion you can come to? And that's how you approach these. That's how you factor into it and go, well, this isn't out there. Nobody's ever created this. Nobody understands this, but I can make an educated guess. These are all about hypothesis. This is kind of that scientific method, like when you did science fairs back in, 10th grade, or however many people had to do science fairs for however long. You applied a scientific method. You had a problem, you had a hypothesis, and then you did an experiment. Well, These are just that, but centered around a product. You have a problem that you have to address, a big technical problem. You have a hypothesis that it'll work and you can sell a product. Now you're creating a work plan. You're creating that experimentation plan to actually move it forward. So kind of think of it that way, is it's just, hey, what can I actually say here? What can I reliably say that if I just had some funding, if I just had the opportunity, if I just had the time to actually dive into this idea, I can create this great product around it. And that's what you have to write about in any of these proposal packages. And at this point, probably a lot of people's heads are spinning. They go, these seem like really great opportunities, but man, there's so many moving parts. There's so many agencies. There's this difference between SBIR and STTR. Del, you talked about innovation and commercialization. I don't even know how to approach this. I don't even know how to look at it. Who is out there to help me? Well, the FAST program is. So that's what we're actually funded to do. We're funded by the SBA to help New Mexico businesses go after these opportunities, to help them learn more about them, whether it's in a workshop like this, or whether it's in a one-on-one session in our office hours, or whether it's just, hey, I want to put together a proposal, but I don't even know the first steps to take. Well, that's what we do. We help you plan, we help you move forward, and we help you put your best effort into capturing these opportunities. We do things like workshops, we have newsletters, we have video series, we have a YouTube channel with like 250 videos on it. And we'll even take a look at your proposal package. We'll do reviews, we'll tell you whether the budget is, off, we'll tell you whether you've approached a section of the proposal, or at the end of the day, the entire proposal in the correct way. The only thing we won't do is actually create content. So we won't sit down and write the proposal for you. And you don't want us doing that anyways. This is your idea. You've lived this, you've breathed this, you've dreamed this, you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into this idea. You know the idea best. You know the idea yourself. So now just write a proposal package around it and get assistance from us. We've got tools and resources. We've got templates for we've got templates for every single agency out there. Pretty much both for SBIR and STTR, at least for those 5, of course, that participate in the STTR program as well. We got compliance documentation. We even do things like run multi-week accelerators that will break down that process into bite-sized chunks. That'll provide that foundation and say, hey, I need to move forward. I can move forward. Here's how I move forward. That's what we are all about, and that's what we try to do within these programs. So whether it's our living library or our YouTube channel, all of these resources are free and available on our website, and you can go out and download them all right now. But if you have issues figuring them out, if you go, well, this sounds great, but I see where this template is, but how do I actually fill this out? How do I move forward? Well, contact us, let us know. We want to help people move through these programs. We want you to actually be able to submit a complete and a compelling proposal package, because we want people to succeed. We want people to grow. We want people to actually get their product into the marketplace. Now, really quickly, there's also something we do every year called our SBIR Innovation Summit. We're going to have one December 15th. You can click on the link. I'll make sure the links are clickable when I send out these slides to find out more. But these are a really great way to get information about these programs, hear from people that have been successful, talk to federal program managers about their agency, about their requirements, see if it's something that even aligns with their mission, aligns with their goals. It's also a really great way to network with other businesses that are seeking these opportunities themselves. Maybe there's a really great joint venture that can come up. Maybe there's a really great partnership y'all can do. Is there some collaboration that maybe y'all can work on together for a submission? It's an opportunity to not only learn more about these programs, to get an insider's viewpoint, to hear from fellow awardees that have actually navigated these programs, that have had successful submissions, that have used these as a backbone to grow their business. But being able to have that one-on-one with a federal program manager is something that does wonders in establishing, is this feasible? Is it something that they believe in? Is it something that they would fund? This event is free and it's online, so there's really no reason not to attend it. But it'll be December 15th from 8:30 to 4:30. There's a agenda up on the website, a tentative one. As we get stuff fleshed out, we'll give people more information. But just in finding out more information, we talked about a lot over the past 55 minutes. I gave you a lot of information. I gave you a lot of requirements. I gave you a lot of restrictions. Gave you a lot of access and websites and links for tools and resources. But if you want to take that first step, if you want to get that start, well, the best thing to do is to contact us. So you can go to our website to apply for assistance. You can email me directly. If these programs seem like a really great value for your business, if these programs seem like a really great way for you to move forward, if you want to get started, let us know. We would love to have a conversation with you about these programs, about how you can leverage these opportunities for positive business growth and development, and how you can just take your idea to a commercial product and at the end of the day be successful. So I want to thank everybody for attending this informational session. Again, this was really just kind of that quick overview, that focus on what is it about these programs that people should be aware of? What is it that I need to know to move forward? And why should I even go after these? Why will they help my business grow? And are they really that valuable? Well, the answer to that question is potentially. It's all up to you. It's all up to you taking that first step forward. But sometimes that first step forward is just shoot us an email or apply for our assistance program. We'll help you take those kind of stage gates, decide that process for you, decide where you go, decide how you actually approach these, decide who the agency is. We would love to talk to each and every one of you about how you can leverage these, at the heart of it, really great opportunities to be successful and to hopefully be a powerhouse for the state of New Mexico and just for the business world overall. So thank you all again. This session was recorded, so we'll get the recording posted and I'll get an email out to everybody with the slides, making sure that all of the links are clickable, and with a copy of the recording so you can listen back to it at your leisure. We do have a couple of minutes available if anybody has any questions that they would like me to answer about the programs, or if you want to just set up a real quick meeting, let me know and we can email back and forth.